This is UFC 300 matchmaking. I was so excited to make this video. I was breaking down a lot, and I had a lot of different matchups for a lot of different people. But just thinking about the card, it was so hard to matchmake because I'm so excited. Want to see these people in so many different fights. But I did my best for you. I'm going to break down who I think everyone on the UFC 300 card should fight next. So make sure you stay tuned, and we're going to get right into it. So UFC 300 matchmaking. This is exactly what we're looking for. And let me tell you something. We are starting right off with Alex Poatan Pereira. Knocked out Jamal Hill in the first round. Retained the light heavyweight title after beating Jiri Prochazka to get it. I know he talked about heavyweight. I think a move up is in his future, but not quite yet. I want to see him fight one more guy before he does so. The guy that I think super boring but is undeniable at this point because of his skills and how he's gotten his wins. It's you guessed it, it's Magomed Ankalaev. Would love to see it at UFC 301 for the main event, and then you have Pantoja versus Usyk as the co-main, and then you have Aldo versus Martinez as the feature fight. You boot Paul Craig, Caio Borralho to the prelims where they fucking belong. But anyway, might be too quick of a turnaround, especially given that there was an injury to Alex Pereira's foot before the fight happened, so that just makes his win that much more impressive over a guy in Jamal Hill that is one of my favorite fighters. But Alex Pereira, man, gotta fight Magomed Ankalaev next. I think it's the right move. You could do UFC 301 if he's ready to go. I know he wants to. It would make that pay-per-view that much better. But I could see him fighting an International Fight Week as a co-main event if they do put McGregor as a main event. But as I mentioned in my last video, Dana White didn't say main event for Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler. He just said it was on International Fight Week, June 29th. So there could be a world in which Pereira headlines that. McGregor-Chandler co-mains. Realistically, I don't think McGregor's curtain jerking for anyone, especially because he's the one that's going to talk the most at the press conference. I think Pereira could co-main that against Magomed Ankalaev. That's a great fight. That's a good enough turnaround for Pereira, especially if he's thinking about making 301. He's definitely going to make 303. So it's got to be Pereira versus Ankalaev to me. I think that's the right matchup. And if he wins that fight, the other contenders are Prochazka, Hill, Rakic just lost. Like, you're not going to fight Blachowicz again because you already beat him. So at that point, I'm okay with you have already beaten everyone in the division. Move up. Next up, Jamal Hill lost in the main event via first round knockout. A guy that won via first round knockout was second round knockout was Jiri Prochazka. Now hear me out. We have wanted to see this fight for so damn long. Ever since Prochazka was the champion, since Jamal Hill was the champion. Either or, we wanted to see them fight. Regardless, both had sustained injuries. Both had relinquished their title. Really, really good dudes. Great fighters, knockout power. This is a fight that we need to see. This is an absolute banger of a fight. No takedowns being done in this fight. This is just going to be a war. Absolute standing, powerful, punching shots. I can't even formulate words again. This fight would excite me so much. These guys are main event level guys, but I don't think they're going to get a main event. Now, if you do a main event, they're headlining a crowded fight night. If you put them in the Apex, put either of them in the Apex, that's a fucking sin. Regardless, headline a main event fight night in September in front of a crowd only, or make it a 5-round feature fight at UFC 306, The Sphere. Imagine the electricity in Vegas for that. Jamal Hill trains in Vegas. You have Prochazka, who's come to fight in Vegas multiple times. They just did this week. It's going to be a sick fight. And then you get to have the co-main event as Grasso versus Shevchenko. It gets built up by this fight. And then 306 can be a main event between a guy that I could see fighting later on. And we'll talk about that a little bit more later. But I think this would be an awesome main event for a fight night. Or, and around September, because Jamal Hill just got slapped. Here he took some damage as well. Main event in September, or you could do 306 The Sphere, a 5-round feature fight. We need 5 rounds for this fight. I don't know that it'll go 5 rounds, but on the off chance it does, I don't want to limit this to 3 rounds. This is going to be an absolute amazing fight. And the winner probably gets #1 contender at the title again. Even if it's Jamal Hill, he stepped up, took the fight against Pereira. It was on short notice, coming off an Achilles injury. He had a lot of adversity he had to overcome. I'm okay with him beating Jiri and going back up to fight. Zhang Weili retained her title via 49-46 decision against Yan Xiaonan, and she should next fight Tatiana Suarez. I'd love to see Zhang Weili go up and fight for the flyweight title, but realistically, they're doing Grasso versus Shevchenko 3. They're doing that on Tough right now, and then after that fight, I think they're going to put it on the Sphere, so you don't want Zhang Weili just waiting around, especially while she's 34. She's going to start exiting her prime soon. Let's see Zhang Weili versus the next contender, Tatiana Suarez. I think she's just the next one to go up there because Zhang Weili has taken care of the rest of the division, or the rest of the division's coming off losses. You can do this one in Perth. They're kind of in a similar time zone. Why make Zhang Weili travel so much all the time? You can make this a feature fight in Perth for the title, especially if you're going to do Adesanya versus Duplessis, which is fucking stupid because Duplessis is the champion. They shouldn't be going to Australia, which is Israel's home turf, even though no one's going to be rooting for Israel Adesanya. Then you can also do Volk versus Topuria if they do that, but then Max just threw a wrench in that, so we don't know. You have Jack Della Maddalena versus Shavkat Rakhmonov that's probably going to go on that card. You can do this as a feature fight, and if it's a third title fight on the card, unbelievable. You could even do it as a co-main, but you better load up the rest of the card if you're going to do that. Tatiana Suarez, Zhang Weili, 305 Perth. Yan Xiaonan got 49-46. She got subbed. She got TKO'd all in one fight. She's going to need some time off. I don't want to see her returning until the end of the year, October, November. They can be a co-main or a feature fight on a fight night with Amanda Lemos. I actually think this would be a pretty fun fight. They're both going to stand up. They're both powerful. They both can strike pretty well for their division. I think that's the right way to go. The man, the myth, the legend, the guy that made this event so special along with everything else that happened. Max Blessed Holloway, superstar, incoming. You can do a million different things with him. He's got options. So many goddamn options. He can fight Ilia Topuria at the Sphere because they're trying to do a Latino heritage. And I know specifically Ilia Topuria is from Spain. It's a Spanish-speaking country. It may not be specifically like the Brazil or the Mexican crowd that they're trying to attend to, but it's Spain. It doesn't seem like they're able to get a fight done in Spain. If they are, just send Holloway out there to fight. I know he would want to do it. This is the right fight to make, I believe, even though it would stink to see Holloway go back down to 145, but especially after he put on all that good weight, I'm okay with a number of different options here, but 306 at the Sphere, Ilia versus Max would be legendary, would sell it out. Topuria's a massive star. Holloway's one of the biggest stars in the sport at this point, and then you have another title fight under that. You do Jamal versus Yuri. I mean, that would already stack up to be an insane card. This would be an awesome main event anywhere you put it. I think 306 is a really good spot, but you can also do a pay-per-view headliner in January versus Conor McGregor if he beats Chandler for the BMF title. That would be absolutely insane. Now, the reason I say at the start of next year is because McGregor fights at the end of June. He's gonna want the time off. He's probably not gonna turn around before the end of the year. He will say he does, but he's not. And then do that fight at 155 pounds for the BMF title. That would sell close to as many pay-per-views as McGregor against Khabib did. It might sell more, especially because the UFC is in such a better place than it was back then. 2018, the UFC was in an awesome spot. But imagine a 2025 pay-per-view, first pay-per-view of the year in January, after the UFC has taken a number of months off. They build up the promotion for that fight. It's McGregor versus Holloway 2 for the BMF title at 155. That would load up pay-per-views. It'd be a sick fight. Or you have Holloway stay, wait around, fight Islam for the title after Poirier and Arman. I don't think he wants to do that. I think he wants to stay active. And why miss out on Max being such a superstar right now? You can also, if he stays at 155, put him against Charles Oliveira, because for some reason they ranked him at 9, even though I think Max Holloway should be at 2 or 3, one spot above Gaethje. In my mind, you do Charles versus Max Holloway. I think that would be a sick fight. You can do the Volk fight again. You can literally do the Volk fight again if you want to wait. So there's a lot of stuff you can do with him. I think Volk's the least attractive option for me. I would love to see him fight Ilya. I would love to see him fight Conor or Charles. Those are the best ones for me. I would love to say Islam. I think he's ready for Islam. I just think that there's people in line ahead of him already. So ton of things you can do. I'm leaning towards a McGregor BMF headliner, and the reason I say that is I think the UFC wants to go to Spain so bad. And I think there's a world in which, and there's always going to be a world in which, Max can take the title off Ilya. They lose the chance to have a pay-per-view in Spain that way, but then maybe you do a fight night. It's a number one contenders match between Ilya and someone else for the title shot, so you could do that either way. I'm leaning towards the pay-per-view. I was leaning towards the pay-per-view with McGregor, but you know what? Headline the Sphere against Ilya, because if Ilya loses this fight, it doesn't mean you can't go to Spain. He just headlines a fight night the following year, and it gives you more time to make that happen, so I think you do 306, the Sphere, main event, Ilya versus Max. Imagine if that was the main event for Dana's biggest card you'll ever see, like he said it was going to be, at the Sphere in Vegas. That would be insane. Max versus Ilya would be great. Max versus Conor would be great as well. Regardless, so many options here for Max. Justin Gaethje. This hurts so bad. I'm such a big Gaethje fan, but like the other side of it is like Max gave us the greatest moment. I'm a huge Max fan, but I really am a big Gaethje fan. It was tough to see him slept like that, but at the end of the day, it was one of the greatest moments ever. I'm sad that might be what Gaethje's remembered for. I don't think he's going to retire. I don't think he wants to go out like that, even though retirement is in the future. So I would say take some time off. Take significant amount of time off. Don't fight probably for the rest of this year. Take the rest of the year off, clear your head, get back in the right mental state, golf. I know my boy loves to golf. And then fight Dustin Poirier in the trilogy in the first quarter of 2025 on a pay-per-view co-main event. Maybe the same one that we get Islam on. Maybe this one's in February. Maybe this is on the same card as Max versus McGregor. I think that would be sick if it's in January. That's the fight to make. Poirier's going to want time off after the Islam fight, but I think he knows that he can make money no matter who he fights. A trilogy fight against Justin Gaethje, they're 1-1. That would be a sick, sick fight. So I would say go Dustin Poirier, trilogy fight, first quarter of 2025, co-main, 5 rounds, same event as McGregor versus Holloway if you do that, or February, same event as an Islam card. So you can see kind of just the lightweight division and premier spot. You know what I mean? Arman Tsarukyan, no shocker. His next fight's for the title. He just beat Charles Oliveira, questionably, but he beat Charles Oliveira by sniffing his crotch. I think a fight with Islam would actually be really fun. People tend to go grapplers, 2 grapplers, that's so boring. What you guys don't realize is when 2 elite grapplers go at it, the transitions are super fun, it's super high level, and they end up kind of neutralizing each other, and it ends up on the feet, which I think Islam is a great striker on the feet as well. So the next one's a title shot against Islam Makhachev. I think Islam beats everybody in the division. I really don't think it's going to be that close with anyone. But give him the title shot. October main event, I would say Abu Dhabi, but Islam's not turning around in 2 months after fighting Poirier, even though I think he does it quickly. And he's not doing it for a fight night headliner. They're not going to put the lightweight title on the line as a fight night headliner, and the card in Abu Dhabi on August 4th is going to be a fight night. They're not going to do that. I think you do an October main event no matter where it is. I don't think they're going to do Abu Dhabi main event this year because they're doing Abu Dhabi pay-per-view this year because they're already doing a card over there and it's a fight night. You put an October main event. Maybe they go back to Vegas. I'm assuming they'll go to Vegas in December. November's always MSG. So wherever you put the October main event, put Islam versus Arman on it, headline. That's the way to go. It's the right fight to make. Charles Oliveira lost in a close fight with Arman. I want him to fight Mateusz Gamrot. Gamrot's going to get his shot at the top 5 because he keeps racking up boring wins. The one person that I can see not making this boring is going to be Charles Oliveira, and you do it in a 5-rounder because I think that ultimately, if he was so close to getting a sub against Tsarukyan, I know Gamrot beat Tsarukyan. I do think Tsarukyan was robbed in that, and I'm going to use robbery as the actual word because I think he was robbed. Clear 1, 2, 3 for Arman to me. I think Gamrot's going to get subbed by Charles Oliveira. I don't think he has great striking, so I think Oliveira is going to be able to stand on the feet with him. I think he's going to want to stand on the feet with him. And Mateusz Gamrot, man, we need a way to make sure he doesn't get a title fight because I just don't want to see him fight in a title fight and stink it up. Nobody does. Make this a pay-per-view in MSG. It's a 5-round feature fight. This should be a 5-round fight, but if you put it on MSG, there's going to be 2 other great fights on it that I think are going to be the main and co-main. You can make this a feature fight and do 3 rounds, but regardless, Charles Oliveira versus Mateusz Gamrot, November, MSG, feature fight. Would love 5 rounds. I'm okay with 3. This is the fight to make. Bonacall, got a win. It wasn't what everyone expected, which was a first 2-minute absolute bash fest of Cody Brundage. But he dominated the fight easily. Still very easy for him. Get him on International Fight Week. Try and build this guy up. Don't fucking ruin him and put him on the main card. Put him against a Dagestani and Albert Duraev on the prelim. I'm okay with a prelim headliner, dude. I'm totally okay with a prelim headliner. Don't make people pay to watch Bonacall when he's not ready for it yet. And I'm repping Penn State here, dude. I like Bonacall. But the UFC setting him up to be hated. Get him back in people's good graces, put him on the prelims, put him against a Dagestani wrestler, and watch him ragdoll at Dagestani. That is a great way to build hype. Albert Duraev's a good step up in competition for him, and it's kind of a disguised one too, where it's like, Duraev's not that good, but it's a step up from where Bonakal's been fighting, and it's a winnable fight for Bonakal. So I would do Bonakal, Albert Duraev, UFC 303, International Fight Week, prelims. It'll get eyes on him in a positive way because it's the McGregor card. Alexander Rakic lost, but looked insanely good against Yuri Prohaska, and the fight to make, in my opinion, is Khalil Rountree. Rountree needs that jump into the top 5. Rakic looked really, really good, really impressive. He needs to take a look down just because he already fought Yuri up there. And not a massive step down is Khalil Rountree. These are two strikers that are going to keep it on the feet. Dangerous, dangerous strikers. I am a Rakic fan now. I'm a Rountree fan. This is going to be awesome. Rakic comes from that eastern part of the world. You can do a co-main event on the UFC Fight Night in Abu Dhabi in August of Alexander Rakic versus Khalil Rountree. That would be an absolute fucking banger. That would be a war. This is the fight to make. It's Rakic versus Rountree, two powerful strikers. This would be an absolutely electric fight. Make this one happen. Aljamain Sterling won a boring decision against Calvin Kattar, and I want to see him fight a grappler, so that way they're forced to stand on the feet. I think Movsar Evloev is the guy. Movsar is not ready for a title shot. He barely beat Arnold Allen. I think he loses to Volk. I think he loses to Ilya, and I think he loses to Max. I think Aljo needs a jump up in competition, even though he put everyone to sleep on 300. Put him against a grappler so there's a chance it's going to be a good fight. Like, put him against a grappler so it's a chance it won't be boring. And everyone's saying Ortega. Dude, I don't want Ortega because I got another matchup in mind for Ortega. And you're going to see that in a little bit. But Movsar Evloev's a grappler with not overly great hands. Aljo's a grappler with terrible hands. This is the fight to make. Make it the main event fight night in Abu Dhabi, and the winner of this can start looking at that title shot. That's where, because a win, 2 wins for Aljo at featherweight, 2 top 10 wins for Aljo at featherweight, a top 10 and a top 5, and then Movsar Evloev beating Arnold Allen and then beating Aljamain Sterling, who's rocketing up the rankings. Though a win for either of these two puts them in title contention. So I would say Aljo versus Movsar Evloev. It gives us a good chance of being a better fight with not as much grappling in it because they're both two grapplers and they tend to neutralize and stand on the feet. And do this in Abu Dhabi as a main event. This is a good main event fight. Great for the crowd, and then you have Rakic versus Rountree right before it. That's a great way to build up that card. Evloev versus Aljo Sterling, Abu Dhabi, main event, 5 rounds. Calvin Kattar had ring rust and lost, sadly. I wanted him to win, but I just kind of saw this happening. I do think that now that he's been in the cage for 3 rounds, he's going to be much better in his next fight. And I don't want to see him against a grappler. He's a very fun fighter. He has a very fun style. He's a very good striker. Put him against a striker. The winner of Lerone Murphy versus Edson Barboza, which I think is going to be Edson Barboza. They are fighting in a main event on May 18th is the date, I believe it is. Because 11th is in St. Louis, 18th is in the Apex. Of course they fucking have another Apex card. Of course they do, because the UFC loves their Apex. But you put him against the winner of that fight, that's going to be an absolute banger. A fight night main event in front of a crowd in November, or a co-main event in front of a crowd. This is an absolute sick fight. I think Edson's going to beat Lerone. Even if Lerone wins, both of those guys would deserve a shot up the rankings. Kattar should fight down in the rankings after the loss to Aljo Sterling, as much as I hate to say it. And this would be a sick fight to make. Striking, war, great fight. And it's winnable for either guy in the octagon. You make this will be a pick'em at that point. So Calvin Kattar versus Edson Barboza, great top 10 level featherweight fight. Kayla Harrison, this is easy. Give her the fucking title fight. I don't want to see her fight. I don't need to see her fight anyone else. She deserves to fight for the title. She's going to be the best in the division, and she's the only way to bring Nunes back. We're going to keep this one short and sweet. Pena and Pennington are probably going to fight sometime soon. And they're going to make us pay for it on a pay-per-view, but it should be like a main event for a fight night, even though it would be terrible. Regardless, put it as, put it wherever you want. Make it happen soon so that way Kayla Harrison can fight in a title fight by December. Make it a feature fight, because in December I want to see a couple title fights and then a feature fight. That's what I want to see. And the feature fight would be this. So I just think it's the right way to go. Kayla Harrison for the title fight. It's an easy, obvious one. Holly Holm, I want her to face a bowl of oatmeal. If she can take on the whole bowl of oatmeal, then we can consider her bringing her back into the UFC. It's tough for an 80-year-old to get in the octagon and fight, but I'd like to see her take down a meal first, and then we can start talking about fighting again. Diego Lopez, this is who I want to fight Brian Ortega at UFC 306. Make it on the main card. Open up the main card. You have a dude with great grappling in Diego Lopez. You have a dude with great grappling in Brian Ortega. Might neutralize. They might end up on the feet. Ortega likes to box sometimes. He's meh boxing. Diego Lopez has crazy power. This is a winnable fight for Diego Lopez. This is how you get him in the top 5. And these are two dudes that have hype behind him after recent wins. Diego Lopez's hype is on another fucking level. And Ortega brings in a good crowd, and if you do this at 306, which is like a no-chain night pretty much, at the Sphere, you have two people of Latina heritage. This is the way you do it. This is the fight to make at 306. Put it on the main card. Open up the main card if you want to do that. Or make it as the 4th fight or the feature fight. Regardless, this fight is going to sell tickets. This fight is going to sell pay-per-views. This fight is going to sell the featherweight division. This fight has contendership for the featherweight title written all over it. Diego Lopez, Brian Ortega, UFC 306 main card. Make it fucking happen, Dana. Sadiq Youssef got brutally KO'd. Quickly, but brutally KO'd against Diego Lopez. Everyone's going to get KO'd by Diego Lopez because that dude is the best finishing instincts I have seen in a long time. There's a fight coming up at UFC 301 in Brazil. Joanderson Brito versus Jack Shore. Two guys right outside the top 15. Two high-level fighters. I think you have them fight Sadiq Youssef. The winner of that fight fights Sadiq Youssef. You do it as a fight night co-main event in September, October. Should be in front of a crowd, but I know the UFC goes nuts for the Apex. And yeah, you can do this on you can make this a co-main. You could make it a main event, but I don't want to see it as a main event yet. I'd like to see these main events be even higher level, and I think this would be an insanely high-level fight. But I'm one to stack these cards, man. Stack the cards. Great main event, great co-main event, good feature fight. Fill out the main card pretty well, and then you can start on the prelims playing around a little bit, putting prospects on. Sadiq Youssef versus the winner of Joanderson Brito, Jack Shore, who is fighting in May. That's the way to go. Fight night, co-main, September, October. That gives them both plenty of time to heal and rest up. Renato Money Moicano, the best call-out in the game, no doubt about it. Give him Beneil Dariush. He deserves a shot up the rankings. I was thinking of Gamrot having to fight down again, but Gamrot's fought down so many times because everyone knows that the UFC just doesn't want to see him as champion. The fans don't want to see him as champion. The fans don't want to see him in fucking fights at this point. But regardless, Renato Moicano deserves a jump up. A dude that needs to take another jump down is Beneil Dariush. UFC, if you can do 306 at the Sphere, I'm actually okay with you doing a main event fight night of this as well in front of a crowd. Renato needs a crowd. Renato needs money. Moicano versus Dariush. You can put this on 306 too. If you had a 306 card of Lopez and Ortega and Moicano Dariush on the card with Jamal Hill, Jiri Prochazka, I mean, this would be insane, dude. And then you have Grasso versus Shevchenko as a title fight as the co-main, and then you put Max versus Topuria as the actual main event. That'd be insane. This is a great fight. Make it happen. Renato Moicano, Beneil Dariush. Moicano deserves money. Moicano wants money. Moicano wants top 5. Moicano's going to get top 5. Get this man in there. He has incredible promo skills, incredible mic skills. This dude is an absolute animal. We should be thanking him for what he's doing for the sport because he's helping put it on another level in and outside of the cage. Moicano versus Beneil Dariush. Would love it at UFC 306. Would love it as a main event of a fight night in front of a crowd. This is the fight to make. Dariush, Moicano. Jalen Turner lost in the top 10 again. It's Drew Dober time. Fans have been wanting to see Drew Dober versus Jalen Turner for a while. This will be a war. It'll stay on the feet. The two dudes will just swing hands. Someone's going to go out, and it's going to be a war. Co-main event in August. This is the way to do it. Dober versus Jalen Turner. I don't really need to say much more. The fans know this is a sick fight. Unbelievable strikers, unbelievable power. Two southpaws. This is the way to do it. Jalen Turner, Drew Dober, fight night co-main in August. Andrade won against Rodriguez. Put her against Blanchfield again. Blanchfield lost. Would like to see them rematch because I actually don't know where Blanchfield stands. We all thought she was so good because of her performance against Andrade. She just might have been on a good level that night, and Andrade might have had an off night. Yeah, book him again. Don't care where. Don't really care too much. Rodriguez, striker. Uruguay, striker. Both of Latina heritage, or Hispanic heritage, I guess you could say. 306 prelim sounds good to me. Not the prelim headliner, but on the prelims, that sounds good. 2 strikers, could be fun. That's the way to do it. Don't care too much about this either. Bobby Green had a great call out of Paddy Pimblett, and this is easy. 304, they're going to Manchester, main card opener against Paddy Pimblett. This is the way to do it. Bobby Green, Paddy Pimblett, great fight to happen. I think it stays on the feet, and I think Bobby Green's the one to get it done. However, Paddy does have some sneaky power. Paddy has good grappling. We'll see how it goes. I think this is a really good fight. This is a chance to get Paddy into the top 15, even though I don't think he's actually going to get in against Bobby Green. But regardless, great fight. Will build hype. It'll help build the Manchester card. 304, make it happen. Jim Miller took a ton of damage against Bobby Green. I want to see him take plenty of time off, especially at his age. We're looking at close to retirement fights here. I want to see him fight people with pillow hands. Selecki and Dawson both have pillow hands. Whoever loses that fight can fight Jim Miller in the potential retirement fight. Do this in December. Give him plenty of time off. I'm okay with this being on the main card of a fight night because they're 2 good fighters at lightweight. You can open up the main card with this on a fight night, or you can do a prelim headliner. Regardless, this is a good fight to make. Jim Miller versus the loser of Grant Dawson, Joe Selecki. Davison Figueiredo beat Cody Garbrandt. I don't want to see Corey Sandhagen fight Umar. Umar doesn't fucking deserve it because he fights literally no one in the top 15, sniffs crotch the whole time, has Muslim and Dagestani privilege, and the dude doesn't take a tough fight. He had a chance at Corey Sandhagen already, and he pulled out. As far as I'm concerned, you lost your fucking opportunity, buddy. You don't just get it because your last name's Nurmagomedov and you crushed a bunch of cans to get 0 on your loss record. You don't fucking get that privilege. Your last win was against some fucking guy that was debuting again, and he rocked you. You're not getting Sandhagen. You don't deserve Sandhagen. I don't want to watch you literally gobble on Sandhagen's rod for 15 minutes or 25 minutes. Corey Sandhagen versus Davison Figueiredo is the fight to make. Davison's time to go up the rankings is now. He deserves a shot up the rankings. Corey Sandhagen needs a fight because Merab and Sean are going to fight. We're getting to a point where Corey Sandhagen is getting a little inactive here. I know he came off an injury in August to Rob Font, but if you do this in August or July, fight night, main event, in front of a crowd, this would be incredible. Sandhagen versus Davison Figueiredo, make it happen. And lastly, Cody Garbrandt and Dom Cruz need to run it back, man. Dom Cruz is in the bantamweight rankings. Cody Garbrandt looked decent for part of the fight against Figueiredo. He just got outgrappled significantly. I think that Cody Garbrandt, Dom Cruz is the fight to make. It builds up hype. It's a way to get Garbrandt in the rankings if he loses. It's a way to make sure that Dom Cruz has some relevancy and can stay in the rankings if he wants to keep fighting. Or Dom Cruz can retire at this and just avenge it. If you co-main this on the Figgy Sandhagen card, that's a great card. You have a great main, great co-main. Make it happen. Cody versus Dom Cruz too. Man, we have just match-made the entire UFC 300 card. Like the whole card we gave fights to. Even some of them, they didn't deserve it just because they're not the most entertaining fighters, but this was the matchmaking card. Hope you enjoyed it. If you have better suggestions, leave a comment below, and please remember, if you like the content, like and subscribe.